Metadata Utility, add movie information manually. From the main switchboard, click on Enter/View Information Switchboard, followed by clicking on Metadata Utility Switchboard, followed by clicking on Metadata Utility to launch the main application. Once there, for this particular example, we are going to search for a movie that we know that we do not have in the library called Horrible Movie. So as we have mentioned before, we start from the top by searching and entering Horrible Movie, followed by clicking on the Enter key on the keyboard to search. We will be prompted by Metadata Utility that the movie was not found. And for this particular example, we're going to select the option No to add the record manually. This will create a brand new record in Metadata Utility, just the title that we searched. To edit that record, we can simply go and double click on the title of that record that was just entered to set the record in edit mode, which will be highlighted by any available field that is editable in this mode. Manual entry mode will have a light yellow background. We must point out to our users when entering records in a completely manual way, it is absolutely imperative that the ID field is to be populated at this time. Meaning that if a record is created with this particular ID name ID underscore here, and we save that record, when we go back to that record, we will not be able to edit that value ever again. So it would be always named ID underscore here. This is the time and the only time in which that can be entered. The record was saved and we are unable to edit it later on because that's simply not possible. Then the only option to correct it will be to delete that record and enter it again, from which we have a separate video dealing with deletions of records that users can also click on. Once that particular record ID has been entered, which has to be unique, which means that prior to entering this record, we should have searched within Metadata Utility and make sure that we do not have that record ID. And we have also a separate video as to how to run granular, detailed, advanced searches in Metadata Utility. Once that record ID has been entered, let's zoom out. We can also enter the additional information in Metadata Utility, such as date, cast, director, genre, overview, tagline, duration, studio, data provider, MPAA, community, as well as provider ID from the source from which we are entering that information, if obviously available. We notice here that the title supplemental, as well as the WMC ID, as well as the second ID link field, as well as XML ID, CHK, Path Builder 1, 2, and 3 fields are grayed out. That is due to the fact that in manual entry mode, Metadata Utility will be a two-step process. First, we have to enter this main information, save it, and after it has been entered, then to check that information will be saved properly, including the ID field, we simply go to the search field and type or copy and paste the actual title of the movie that we're just entering, and click enter to search, which will actually run the integrity check within Metadata Utility as to whether that ID was indeed unique. And if it was actually unique, it will save the record and automatically change the view to the normal display view, which is with a white background on those fields. Once that has been saved, as we see here, then we can proceed, in this particular case, either to complete entering the information in the Metadata Utility. As we see here, if we have any kind of small grammatical errors, as we zoom in here, as we mentioned before, Windows Media Center is very particular. And when reading metadata information from XML files, we have grammatical errors such as special characters that are non-English alphabetical. Windows Media Center may not read them properly and display an error, or not display the metadata information at all. Therefore, we always recommend users, when entering data as well as when even downloading automatically movie detail information, to always run a check and make sure that the information is appropriately formatted. Once that has been completed, then the record will be properly saved. We can proceed to set the record in edit mode by double-clicking on the title and adding the additional fields such as title supplemental, which is designed to show the actual title as we want to show it in Windows Media Center. Once that we do that, Windows Media Center will either generate automatically an XML ID, or we can enter one of our choosing, which, as we have mentioned before, XML ID has to, just as the ID field for Windows Media Center, the XML ID has to always be unique. Therefore, we always recommend users to let Metadata Utility manage XML ID, as well as the CHK field and the path builders showing the correct path for the movie that we are currently entering. This will complete the actual generation or entry, manual entry in this case, of a movie in Metadata Utility. We obviously always recommend users better to use the fully automated way, as it is just a few clicks away, but this is an example of the capability and the event that a movie title is not found online. For more information or questions, we welcome our users to either click on any of our other videos on any of the other topics from which we have detailed instructions, as well as visiting us at our website, where we have even more topics available, detailed instructions, step by step, how to manage the Windows Media Center movie library using Metadata Utility. Our website is metadatautility.com. We thank you for watching.